Good afternoon, this is the World Football Show. Kevin Hatchard is my guest this week. Welcome along, Kevin, and he will be giving us the lowdown on Aston Villa's Brian Majjo. Is there reason to be excited, or are we all getting just a bit ahead of ourselves? Never. We'll be getting the latest from South America as Lionel Messi drops a huge hint that he could be about to retire. Really difficult time for him, but could a major shake-up to the Copa Libertadores convince him to hang on a little longer? Romelu Lukaku is the latest big name to be heading to Turkey, which is why so many top players attracted to the Turkish league over leagues like Saudi Arabia. We'll discuss that in due course. Chelsea have given a deadline of 5 p.m. tomorrow for Manchester City to make their move for Enzo Fernandez. But so could they be about to put together the best midfield in world football? But let's start with the teenager whose name is on everyone's lips today, at least. Yes, Brian Majjo became the youngest scorer in Super Cup history at 17 with his goal for Aston Villa against PSG last night. Villa lost the game, but it's not the result that everyone was left asking Unai Emery about.
Brian, he started playing in Walsall, scoring 2 goals, 1 goal like today. He continued scoring goals in Porto. He scored. No, in Porto was Luca. The young players, and against teams, Real Sociedad, he scored, Brian. And he played today because he was in pre-season showing us his capacity to work in our idea, being as well demanding, because as well it's not scoring goals, it's as well how he's defending, how he's getting the commitment and discipline tactically, and he was doing, and today he did again. This is the process for the young players. Of course, we have another young players, they can have the same example for the future. But now, the reality is, of course, we show their capacity, but now is to keep being consistent, keep being demanding, and keep being performing in the level they show it today.
So, as mentioned, European football expert Kevin Hatchard is with me this afternoon. Kevin, brilliant to have you with us. Let's talk about Majjo. Born in Enfield, arrived at Villa from Metz in January. What do we know from him about his time in France, his short time?
Yeah, so as you say, born in England, but spent some time in Luxembourg playing youth football, coming through the academies in Luxembourg, which have produced a fair few players. Got the move to Metz. He's from a footballing family. His father, Guy, played for Cameroon, so he's got that background. And at Metz, played for their under-19 team, scored well there and played well there. Didn't play a lot of senior football. And when Villa came to take him, they were hoping to be able to play him straight away when they brought him in January. But because he played international football for Luxembourg, it was seen as an international transfer, and therefore FIFA put a block on it. So therefore, Villa had to appeal that. They had to go to CAS, and they had to say, well, no, he was born in Enfield. He's an English guy. It's not an international transfer. And that decision has been upheld, and so he can now play. I mean, he didn't look like a guy who, had only just come into first-team football for Villa. I thought his performance was remarkable. The most impressive thing, missed a chance, didn't mind. Let's get up, let's go for the next one. All the top strikers have that, I think, that ability to compartmentalise and forget about the chance they just missed.
And a huge physical presence, but the technique for the goal was outstanding as well. You've alluded to that battle for Villa to actually have him available last night. I guess it just underscores how worth it was for them to go through that process, because what could he represent for them now?
Yeah, I think Unai Emery will be very careful with him. They'll manage his minutes. Of course, they've got Ollie Watkins, who's a brilliant top-line striker, who's been consistent year upon year. But if you've got a backup there who you can really work on, and of course they're going to be playing top-level European football, so you can get him minutes in that way, he could be very, very exciting going forward, I think. And I think this is where clubs like Villa, like Newcastle, there's a lot of talk about PSR and squad cost ratio and what have you. This is where this imagination, bringing players in, developing them for not a huge amount of money in the grand scheme of things, that's where clubs like Villa and Newcastle maybe can find the edge.
Is it harder for them than, say, Brentford or Brighton, just quickly, because of the theatre, the cauldron atmospheres at those stadiums? Is it a little bit different, do you think, the expectancy?
I think some players relish that, though. I think some players really rise to that occasion. I mean, that was against the best club side in the world, that many people would say, and he really rose to that occasion and really played well. So he looks like a player that could deal with the pressure.
He certainly does. Already been talked up about as a replacement for Harry Kane, which shows us how desperate we are in England for success. What is this eligibility for England? Is it certain he'd be playing for England at senior level?
Well, he has switched to play youth football for England, so that would be the hope in the long term, you would think. Early days, let's just say early days, but it was a very, very impressive performance, no doubt about that. But I think we're looking for the next Harry Kane in lots of different places. And I think clubs are as well. I think Spurs are still looking for the next Harry Kane.
Well, timing could be there, couldn't it, I suppose, as well, with Harry. You never know. Got hopefully a couple of years left. Kevin, thank you very much for now. Now let's switch to Lionel Messi. Is he about to walk away from football? The World Cup winner last night put out an emotional, poignant post on social media indicating he may retire following the death of his father, Jorge. Well, for more on that, we are joined by South American football expert Tim Vickery. Tim, brilliant to speak to you. Thank you for joining us. Let's start with that sombre news then. Tell us about Lionel's relationship with his father and how sincere is the thought of retirement?
Well, it's obviously a huge blow that he has to ride now because his father has always been part of the project. And Messi belongs to this new generation, if you like, of hot-housed players who, you know, by the time they're 15, they're already... I mean, maybe the original Ronaldo is the last of the Mohicans in that he was a kid growing up in the working-class suburbs of Rio, who was an absolutely normal kid until he was 15, 16, and then suddenly a global superstar. What tends to happen now is they're hot-housed very, very early, and very often they're products of their fathers, and that was the case with Lionel Messi. So his father taking him to Barcelona, that wouldn't have happened without his father at the age of 13. So his father has always been part of the Messi project. This was his absence through illness from the World Cup, I think, was part of the tragedy that unfolded. And you saw how Argentina and Messi reacted to losing the final. I think that's part of the story. So this is a huge blow for him to ride at a point where maybe the final of the World Cup made it obvious that he can't do it forever. Reminds me a little bit, perhaps, of Marlon Brando, who acted for his mother, and when his mother died, didn't take the profession as seriously as all that, but still gave us The Godfather. So we'll see what Lionel Messi has left, if he's got any Godfathers left to give us. But certainly, this little man's been part of my life now for 21 and a half years. The end, whatever happens, with or without his father, the end is far, far closer than the beginning. This could well hasten the end, but we'll have to see how he rides it out, how he feels in a few weeks.
Well, let's hope he has that Godfather next chapter to come, Tim, which has got my mind kind of whirring, certainly. You said there it's obviously touched you professionally because of following him for such a period, but I imagine that news pretty devastating to Argentinian fans, knowing that he's lost his father, but also possible repercussions of giving up the game.
Yes, I mean, one Argentine TV announcer lost her job during the World Cup because she jumped the gun by a month or so and announced that Jorge Messi had died. He's not Diego Maradona. Diego Maradona was one of them who became a god. But he was so relatable, Diego Maradona, for all the times that he fell down and got back up again, you know, going to the stadium and taking off his shirt and swirling it around his head and leading his chants. The relationship with Messi is very, very different. It took a long time to capture them. It wasn't really until the Argentine national team started winning things from the Copa America of 2021. And it was clear from the period of time when he started fighting with Barcelona, it became clear to everyone that Argentina had become his number one priority. And then the Argentine public really, really got on board. So they have an absolute reverence for him, but it's a little bit more awestruck than at a distance than the relationship that they had with Maradona. Obviously, he doesn't have a great deal of time left with the national team. I would have thought that the next World Cup looks a very, very long way away, but there still could be a role for him to play in the national team to help in the transition to the new generation. There are huge hopes about the Como youngster, Nico Paz. So far, and they took him to the World Cup, so far Argentina haven't been able to get much out of him. And he's a player who wants the ball to feet, as does Messi, and it's been impossible, I think, to have the two of them in the same side. Now, I think they have to build for the future, and the future that they believe that it is Nico Paz, but maybe Messi can stay on for a little while and ease the transition. And if I can make another allusion to the world of cinema, perhaps he can be a kind of Master Yoda, kind of Messi Yoda, helping Nico Paz find the force.
Tim,
Mind boggles.
Tim, we've been working together a long time. If you're making Star Wars references, it's clearly rubbed off on you there. This news with Messi comes amid talk of something you've talked about for a long, long time now, and that's the potential of CONCACAF clubs, whether it's MLS clubs, of course, Messi at Inter Miami, or Mexican clubs, getting involved with the South American Copa Libertadores.
Yeah, and the logistical problems on this are enormous. And the Americas are huge. And just to give you an example, the distance between Buenos Aires and Mexico City is further than that between London and Mumbai. And there's a whole lot of space all the way up, all the way up to Canada. So the logistical problems in a genuinely pan-American continent are massive. But in football terms, it makes such sense. And the Libertadores now, South America's Champions League, has a huge problem, which is that Brazil has outgrown the continent, really, in football terms. Brazil is now siphoning up talent from so many of the neighbouring countries, and Brazil has won the Libertadores every year since 2019. Very often now we're having all Brazilian finals. Now this is obviously rendering the competition predictable. You look to the north and you see the strength, certainly in social media terms, of the Mexican teams. And you see football growing in the United States and attracting glamorous players and starting to produce players of its own. And you can certainly see, I think, the potential for something Pan-American, which could theoretically, and this is a long way off, but theoretically, it could be a rival pole to the undoubted dominance of European club football. Now, while Messi is still around with Inter Miami, and he's under contract until I think the end of 2028, there is an incentive to try and get him into the Libertadores somehow. So there were attempts a decade ago by an Italian billionaire to try and launch a kind of Pan-American competition. That failed then, but that was before the domination of the Libertadores by the Brazilian teams. That year, 2016, the final was between a club from Colombia and a club from Ecuador. So no one was even seeing the future of this Brazilian domination at that point when that idea was discussed and finally rejected. It's an idea whose time will come. How you solve the logistical problems of the travelling, the immense travelling involved, because surely we've reached the point where you can only add things to the calendar by taking other things away, and no one wants to take anything away. But this certainly is a space to watch, I think, this idea of some kind of Pan-American club competition.
A fascinating prospect, particularly if Messi plays on. But a question to both of you, Tim, and beginning with you. If Messi were to walk away at this stage, is it the right time? And does he walk away the best of his generation? And we don't want to get into the best of all time, I guess, because that's a very difficult debate.
Well, especially given where I live, where many, many people in Brazil will not even have this debate. They say this debate is ludicrous. It can't possibly be had. And how do you compare across generations? And I always hate it when these debates become attritional. You can appreciate Pele, you can appreciate Maradona, you can appreciate Messi, you can appreciate Cristiano Ronaldo. Why not? Why not appreciate them all? Why does one have to be used to attack the other? In the race between the athlete and time, there's only ever one winner, isn't there? Messi has retarded that defeat by the style with which he plays, the intelligence with which he plays. As his old teammate for club and country, Javier Mascherano, used to say, Messi while he's playing the game, he's also watching it from the best seat in the house. He has an extraordinary capability to understand space. And this was the thing, when I saw him, I saw the whole thing first. It was probably the high point in what I ludicrously call my career. The South American Under-20 Championships at the start of 2005 in Colombia, the very area, unfortunately, which has been affected by this recent earthquake. And even Argentina didn't know a great deal about him. He played one friendly for Barcelona. They knew Spain wanted him. And so, all right, if Spain wants him, there could be something special there. Let's do what we can to get him. So Argentina managed to get him and unleashed him in this tournament. And you looked at him and you thought, no chance. Look at him. He's half as high as everyone else. He looks like the pigeon-toed runt of the litter. Look at him. And as soon as he got on the ball, we knew we're in the presence of something special. Not just because the ball was so much part of him that he can dribble while watching TV and changing the channels. Not just because of that, but also, and this was the thing that I think really stood out, he understood space. He wasn't flicks and tricks 30, 40 metres from goal. He wasn't. He understood when and where to attack the space where he could most hurt the opposition defence at 17. And it's that ability which has enabled him to prolong his career to the age of 39. Because you saw it time and time again in the World Cup where Argentina were in trouble. And it wasn't the coach, as Scaloni would freely admit. No, it was Messi. Right, I'm reading a game. What do I have to do now? I'll go there. And time again, he pulled it out of the fire for Argentina. Couldn't in the final, although there were one or two moments when he thought they're going to save themselves, aren't they? They really are. But it's that ability to interpret space which has enabled him to have such a long career. But surely, maybe I think part of the sadness of the Spain defeat was seeing against a team as good as Spain, how hard it was for a team to carry a player for parts in the game, as Argentina had been carrying Messi, because clearly he's not going to cover the ground that the other players are going to carry. But if he leaves the stage soon, if he doesn't leave the stage soon, what pleasure he's given us. You know, sometimes I wonder if Pelé regretted leaving the World Cup at the age of 29, but he had that theatrical sense of timing, always leave them wanting more. In the case of Messi, it's what he enjoys doing. He enjoys doing it so much, but you reach the moment where you can't do it to the same extent, and that maybe brings more frustration than pleasure. And I think Messi's perhaps not far away from that moment.
Been a privilege to watch him, probably apart from that 20 minutes against England at the World Cup, where it was pretty torturous. If he does decide to stay on, Tim, reports Neymar could be lined up to rejoin him at Inter Miami. Luis Suarez there already. What chances the famous threesome could be back on the cards? And what are your thoughts on Neymar and what he has left?
I wonder how much he wants to do it, really. And Neymar is another of those with a father who's hot-housed him and I'm not saying this in any negative way, made a lot of money off him. And the noises about carrying on have been far more vociferous from his father than they've been from Neymar. And he's clearly not the same player, is he? He's clearly undermined by the succession of injuries that he's endured in his career. And doing the Brazilian TV that I do, you hear whispers from the former players who also work in the media about lifestyle and so on, and about his commitment to poker. And you just wonder how much longer he would want to put himself through it. And I don't think he can hit the peaks anymore. Very interesting, Carlo Ancelotti, when he returned to Brazil a few weeks after the World Cup elimination, Brazil's coach, he put his hand up and said, yeah, it was me. It was me. I made a very bad substitution. He's referring, of course, to the substitution that he made against Norway, where they were eliminated, where he brought on Neymar and effectively destroyed his own team. And Ancelotti was very, very elegant about it and said, yeah, it was all my fault. He didn't put any blame whatsoever onto the players. But you could see in the World Cup that Neymar, he just doesn't have the same balance anymore. Can that be recuperated? And he's still capable of little bits of magic. He strikes the ball superbly from dead ball situations. But he often seems to be, he's getting suspended all the time because he's picking up so many cards. And he's always been a hothead. But part of this, I think, is just pure frustration that he can't do what he used to do so well. And he used to be, his absolute strong point was receiving the ball in reduced space with three players around him and being able to work his way through them all. That doesn't really happen anymore. So you wonder what pleasure there is left in it for him. And the player himself has alluded to, he hasn't got a great deal left. Getting the old Barcelona gang back together, well, it seems more appealing to the marketing boys than it does to fans of well-played football, I would have thought, at this point in all of their respective careers.
Fair enough.
Tim, in the build-up to the World Cup, you talked a lot about Ancelotti's decisions around Neymar. Would he take him? If he did, how much would he use him? How much has this damaged Ancelotti? Because, as you've said, he's held his hands up. He said that was my fault making that substitution. But has that damaged him going forward? Because it was always quite a contentious hire anyway, wasn't it?
Yes, and he was brought in exactly. It's a bit like it's similar to Thomas Tuchel with England. You bring in the elite coach exactly to make those game management decisions, and they were the two who seemed to get it most wrong. It's damaged him enormously. I mean, the Neymar debate. There's never going to be a great deal of logic about this in Brazil, and you called it right all along, Kev. You said it just wasn't worth the noise around it, because Ancelotti himself has held his hand up and said, yeah, bad substitution, without blaming the player. Very elegant, this. He is wonderful at public relations and a genuinely sweet guy, I think. But there's another side of the debate that criticises Ancelotti for not using Neymar enough. He should have been on from the start. Why wasn't he on from the start? So he's dealing with inflamed emotions, the like of which I don't think he's really had anywhere else in his career. What fascinates me about the whole Ancelotti project now is that he has to do a long-term rebuilding job. And the area of the field that he's identified quite correctly, this has been an obsession of mine since 1998, is the midfield. Because one of the things he got criticised for in the game against Norway was that Brazil play Norway in a World Cup game and Norway have by far more possession. How is this possible? And Ancelotti's defence, and it's a fair defence, is look at the characteristics of the players. Look at them. We don't have midfielders who control games. What we have is players who are vertical, who are direct, who want to go at pace. So that's his defence to why he played the way that he did against Norway. And really, until the substitution, although Norway had more possession, Brazil had the clear chances. You know, Bruno Guimarães had missed a penalty. Endrick missed one when he's one-on-one with the goalkeeper. But what Ancelotti would like now is to groom a new generation of midfielders who give him the option of controlling a game and controlling possession as well. What I find fascinating here is that you never think of Ancelotti as a coach of a long-term ideas plan. You think of Ancelotti, who comes along and just does a tweak here and a tweak there and gets the best out of the resources available to him. And if you were comparing to a doctor, he'd be someone who just puts the Band-Aid in the right place rather than someone who conducts extensive surgery. And what, as he is freely saying, what Brazil need now is some kind of extensive surgery. So is he the man to do it? Can he do this? Is this in his skill set late in his career? We shall find out.
Look forward to finding that out, Tim. Been a pleasure. Tim Vickery, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, with Manchester City potentially about to sign 2 more midfielders, we wondered which team potentially has the best midfield in Europe right now. Could it be City, or does the signing of Bruno Guimarães mean Arsenal are on top? How about if Barcelona get Rodri over the line? One to discuss next. Welcome back. This is the World Football Show. Harry Kane is returning to Bayern Munich training tomorrow ahead of planned talks about extending his contract. He is due to train with the squad later in the day on Friday. Bayern Munich are keen to agree new terms with Kane to ensure they can keep him beyond his current deal, which runs out in less than a year's time. Kane will be free to talk to foreign clubs from January when he enters the final 6 months of his contract, and has had interest from Barcelona. Now, what a midfield Manchester City could have if all of their transfer plans come together. Chelsea have set them a deadline of 5 p.m. tomorrow for a bid of £120 million to sign Enzo Fernandez. On top of that, they've already brought in Elliot Anderson, and it looks as though Lille midfielder Ayyoub Bouaddi could be headed there too. He shone at the Summer's World Cup for Morocco, you may remember, and one of their former stars told us he's drawing some impressive comparisons.
Very interesting player. We called him the Busquets of national team of Morocco, but he's still young. I find him as a player very clever, very mature in the middle of the pitch, front of the defense. I think he's doing a great job, even with Morocco, but with Lille he did well. Now in Morocco, now we have a lot of such good players. They all play in big teams, but we never saw a young player like Bouaddi and this age to play for big team. It can be, I think, a good move, first of all, He will play with a big team. He will learn, and now he has a lot to improve, because even if he's a young player, when you move for this kind of teams, so you have to work more hard. And I think he's got a good future.
Okay, let's talk all things Bouaddi with Kevin. Kevin, where do the player's strengths lie? Where does he need to improve if he is to, I suppose, make an impression at Manchester City?
The thing that stands out to me is the composure. It's absolutely extraordinary. If you look at the way he played for Morocco against Brazil, it's like it was a kickabout with his mates. I mean, he was taking on a high-class midfield, ghosting past players, passing through the press, excellent performance. That's what really stands out, the composure, passes well, under pressure. Can he improve physically? Absolutely, and he's going to need to do that if he comes to the Premier League. Can he be better in the air? Yes, I think he can. So he's got those physical things I think he can work on, but the most important thing is that composure, that technical quality. He's got that. So that's a great basis upon which Enzo Maresca can work.
Yeah, incredible to have that such youth as well. Do you see him having the potential to fill the void that would be there if Rodri were to leave either now or next summer?
Well, look, the thing is, Rodri is the best player in his position in the world. I think that's clear. We saw that with Spain at the back end of the World Cup. You know, some of these statistics, you know, successful dribbles, Bouaddi has the edge in the last season. But you're also talking there about a Rodri that was coming back from a very complex and very serious injury. So I think Bouaddi has a lot to recommend him, but he's going to have to develop. But he's got a great coach in Maresca to work with. He'll have brilliant players around him. But at the moment, Rodri is the gold standard in that position.
So there's so many variables, isn't there, with Barcelona going after Rodri? But what do you think of the Manchester City midfield? I suppose, assuming Rodri stays, Bouaddi comes, in terms of some of the best in the world.
Fascinated as to how it lines up. Elliot Anderson, I think, showed at the World Cup what an impressive player he can be. Him alongside Bouaddi, you've got that real class in midfield, that ability to break a press, that ability to break up attacks as well. We should talk about Bouaddi's defensive work. He does that exceptionally well. So now it's about where the goals are going to come from. Obviously, Enzo Fernandez has been linked with the move to Manchester City as well. But to have Bouaddi and Anderson in the same building, that is an incredible basis, I think, that they can work on.
I suppose it seems at the moment, doesn't it, even generationally going back, people like Roy Keane and Brian Robson were breaking transfer records, but it seems to have come back into vogue. The central midfielder with the huge transfer fees, a lot of conversation around them. Why do you think that is at this time?
I think we've had some quality players like Bouaddi and Anderson have really good World Cups. Rodri as well. So that lends itself to that transfer market activity. But also there aren't many players who can control a game in the way that these guys can. You know, and therefore they're very sought after. There's lots of competition for them. There's lots of clubs that could benefit from a player like him. So that's why the market's so hot for them at the moment.
And almost all rounders, a lot of them aren't there as well. Kev, thank you very much for now. On the way, we're going to turn our attention to Spain fully. Just why have Chelsea moved to bring in Pep Chavarria? Plus, La Liga season starts this week. We'll bring you the strange story of the side with no home. And of course, we can't talk about Spain without talking about the hopes of Jose Mourinho and Real Madrid. That's all on the way in a few moments. This is the World Football Show, and a new signing from Spain for Chelsea. They brought in left-back Pep Chavarria from Rayo Vallecano for a fee of around £16.3 million plus add-ons.
Yeah, I play in Spain all my life, and for me, Premier League is the best league in the world right now. A lot of quality, intensity, and I think that it's the best league for me.
Have you managed to speak to Xavi yet?
Yeah, I speak with Xavi. I stay here thanks to Xavi. For me, it's one of the best coaches right now, and he was also one of the best football players, and it's an honor to be here. I speak with Xavi, and he say that feel good and do the same, not change.
So new signing in at Chelsea in Pep Chavarria. He is already 28 years of age, again signifying this change of approach from Chelsea. He's not someone, perhaps, Kevin, and a lot of people know too much about. Just tell us about his journey and what type of player Chelsea fans can expect.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago he was playing in the second tier for Zaragoza. He got the move to Rayo Vallecano. And he's been one of the big beneficiaries of their rise in the last year or so, because for them, not only to qualify for Europe, but to get to the final of the Conference League was mind-blowing, really. And we'll talk about why in just a little while. But for Chavarria himself, very quick, very aggressive, wants to, good one-on-one defender. Not got tons of assists, not got tons of goals. He's not necessarily that type of player yet. But I think Xabi Alonso has seen something in him that he believes he can get the most out of him. And if you look at Xabi Alonso's time at Bayer Leverkusen, wing-backs were hugely important, those wide defenders, because you had Alex Grimaldo on one side, and you had Jeremy Frimpong on the other. And they were the keys to the team, really. They were getting double figures in terms of goal contributions on a regular basis. So be interesting to see if you can get that out of Chavarria. But the pace of him, I think, is very important, and the defensive qualities as well.
Yeah, interesting to see if he does play wing-back and how he gets on with that role. He comes from Rayo Vallecano then, as you alluded to themselves. A very interesting story. With the league kicking off this season, there's quite a tale going off in that part of Madrid as well, isn't there? Tell us about it.
So this is extraordinary, really. So they're not going to be able to play at their stadium at Vallecas. They're going to have to play at Leganés' stadium instead, because there was a health and safety report done. And one of the conclusions from that was that fans might contract Legionnaire's disease because of the state of the stadium. So there's been rubbish piled up there. There are problems with electrical faults. If you look at last season, the players were complaining there wasn't always hot water in the showers. The pitch was an absolute mess.
If you look at Sunday League, sounds like, yeah.
Well, this is it. You look at the training ground, it had mould, and they couldn't always train at their training ground. They don't have online ticketing, so you have to queue up if you want to buy a ticket for Rayo. And the owner, Raúl Martín Presa, wants to move the club away from Vallecas. He wants to move to an entirely new stadium. The local authorities have a different plan. They want to renovate the stadium that's already there, and that's what the fans want, because Vallecas, the actual area, is so important to them.
Yeah, it's a passionate story, isn't it? We'll see how that one develops. I mean, elsewhere in the league, big boys Barcelona continue to strengthen, with Manchester City's Rodri still a target, reporting a £55 million offer, rejected the latest offer from Barca for him. I just want to ask you, Kev, we knew about Barcelona's financial turmoil not long ago, it seemed. How are they able to put these deals together at the moment?
So the difference here with Barcelona is, for years they've struggled with La Liga's cost controls, and they haven't always been able to spend what they make in terms of either sales or getting players off the wage bill. Because of the return to Camp Nou and because of the extra revenue they've been able to make, now they've got this situation which is one-to-one, as they call it. And what that means is anything they make, they can then spend on their squad. So they're able to bring in somebody like Rodri, maybe, and still chase Julian Alvarez at Atletico Madrid. The other part of this, which is quite interesting, is that they might have to move away from Camp Nou in the next few years to have a roof put on.
Okay.
So if they're going to do big deals, they're probably going to have to do it now, because they might not be able to register those guys in further seasons. So that's why Barcelona are pushing the boat out a little bit more now.
Interesting to see that development happens at the new camp. What about the hopes for Jose Mourinho and Real Madrid? Being busy again, he brings a real energy when he arrives, at least, doesn't he? Have they been busy enough to stop Barcelona? How do you see the title race?
He definitely brings energy.
Yeah.
And I'm fascinated by this. I really am, because I feel like he needs this to work. Because if you look at Fenerbahce, that didn't really work out for him. If you look at Roma, he started very well, won the Conference League, Europa League final, but it all kind of dribbled away. So I think his stock has fallen a little. There's a great opportunity for him. Florentino Perez, the president, is a huge fan of his. He believes he can get Real Madrid competitive with Barcelona. They've not won La Liga in the last couple of seasons. How's he going to fit all the pieces together? He's got Mbappe, he's got Vinicius Junior who's staying. They've just spent an enormous amount of money on Yan Diomande. How are you going to get it all to fit together? Is he going to be naturally pragmatic, or is he going to release the handbrake a bit so he can fit all of these attacking talents in?
Yeah, it's exciting, isn't it? It could go one or two ways, or many ways. We'll see how that goes. Let's switch attention now to Turkey. And could they be about to attract another big name from the Premier League? Galatasaray have made Arsenal's Gabriel Martinelli their top target for the window. This according to Sky in Germany. Turkish side have indicated they're prepared to pay £38.4 million for the winger, 25 years of age now. Sky Sports News understands Arsenal would listen to offers for Martinelli, has 1 year left on his deal, plus an option for a further year. Kevin, it seems, doesn't it, that Turkey's an increasingly attractive destination. It's a great holiday, but for footballers. Why is that the trend?
I think it's a combination of things. I think the first thing is you look at some of the signings Turkish clubs have made. I think the signing of Victor Osimhen at Galatasaray really raised eyebrows. And he then did really, really well. People saw the love he got from the fans. People saw how he's really thrived there. And I think top players are looking at that and thinking, well, that could be the destination for me. The finances are there. There's no doubt about that. There's sponsors who are willing to help these clubs out, for example. The tax breaks are significant, so they can pay big wages. Yeah. As you've alluded to, Turkey is a great destination. You know, the passion of the fans, the food, the culture, and not just in Istanbul either. Mo Salah's just gone to Trabzon. It's a great football city by the Black Sea. He's going to love it there, and the fans show you that devotion. So I think the Saudi Pro League's probably looking at the Turkish Super League and thinking, we wanted to be that. That was supposed to be our gig, bringing these guys in. And Turkish football's actually nipped in and got a lot of these starts.
Yeah, the big tax breaks, but also the Champions League, albeit the Saudis playing the Asian Champions League, don't they? Yeah,
that's the key.
Yeah.
European football in general, but the Champions League as well, is huge for these players. So even though Salah's not going to be in the Champions League with Trabzonspor, good chance of playing in one of the lower competitions, and he would look at that and think, well, I can go for trophies here. And I think he felt of the clubs that went for him, Trabzonspor actually had the most cohesive personal plan for him from the sporting sense. So I think that's why he's really gone for it.
Let's have a look at some of the names that have moved there over the summer. Long list of highly quality international stars here. Kev, talk us through some of these and why perhaps they did choose Turkey over Saudi Arabia. Is it the standard of the football? Is it that simple?
I think it is that mix of things. I think the standard is growing in Turkey. There's no doubt about that. The money is there. The ability to play Champions League or Europa League is there. And I think that is drawing more and more players. And I think clubs are being really ambitious as well now because it's almost become an arms race. Because we've had Galatasaray and Fenerbahce fighting it out in the Turkish Super League for years. Trabzonspor want to get to the top table. Besiktas, who've had a nightmare in the last few seasons, all kinds of chaos, they want to get to that top table. So now you've got fair few clubs at the top. Romelu Lukaku, it's a great signing if he stays fit. He showed us at the World Cup for Belgium what he's still capable of, but he's had a horrible year with injury. So I really wish him the best. I'm a huge Lukaku fan, I have been for years. I really want him to do well, and I think he could.
Very hard to stop him scoring, isn't it? OK, he was linked with Chelsea after winning the league in his first season at Porto. We'll get Kevin's thoughts coming next. On the way, we'll meet Francesco Farioli to find out just why he's being tipped for the biggest jobs in world football. Welcome back. In his first season in charge of FC Porto, Francesco Farioli guided his side to securing the Primera Liga title as well as the Super Cup. The 37-year-old, who's been linked with Chelsea and Rangers in the past, has gained a lot of experience across his career in Qatar, Turkey, France and now Portugal. Farioli sat down with our reporter, Tim Thornton.
First of all, congratulations on winning the league last season. And now the Super Cup is the latest trophy. Is that one extra special for you because it takes you past Benfica as the most decorated club in Portuguese football?
Yeah, you say right. 88 titles for the club. That's a massive achievement. The fact to bring back Porto as the biggest, the club with the most title in the country. It's a massive club, a big institution, a club with a massive history. When you walk through the museum to see the trophies, the domestic trophies, but especially, of course, the international ones, the European ones, to have the opportunity and the privilege to represent a club of such a dimension is, of course, a daily privilege, a lot of responsibility as well for the history of the club and especially, you know, for what this club represents for the supporters.
You are still a very, very young coach, but you've gathered so much experience already. So talk to me about some of those experiences.
It has been a privilege, a great opportunity. 10 years ago, I was in Qatar as well. So Qatar, Turkey, France, the Netherlands, and now Portugal, and of course as well in Italy. So the opportunity to work in so many different countries, different contexts, different level of clubs, different demands, different expectations. It's something great if you take the professional life, of course, because force you to adapt yourself, to keep yourself and to keep your identities and what you really believe in, but as well to be elastic, you know, in adjusting to what is needed. When you start to work in club of such a dimension like Porto and Ajax, as well, you are going to experience certain aspects of the game and what it means to be a coach of elite teams, and in this part as well, how my duties as a head coach, as a manager, are going to be different in terms of course, connection with the supporters, connection with the club that has, of course, a big board and a lot of people in charge, and you start to recognize quite clearly, you know, that the job is not just to deliver a proper training session on the pitch. Here is one of the jobs. So everything is growing the technical staff, the number of people that daily I have to manage, and honestly, it's an incredible experience.
How important is it that clubs put trust in young coaches and see them develop?
When I got my first job as a head coach, I was 30 years old. It was quite rare. I remember that I was one of the few people that we had such a privilege. And as well, let me say, this utopia, no, to be so a young coach at the senior level is becoming every day more normal. Somehow it's becoming also a bit fashion, you know, to have a young coach to put in front of a group of players. And what I believe, and this is what I always demand as well from the club that they were going to hire me, not to take me for the passport and for my age, but to have, of course, an evaluation about my skills, because I never wanted to have just a job because I was a young one or a fresh one. So that's why in my interview I always ask, you know, to go one layer deeper and one layer more, because I like to put always everything on the table. Going back to your question, that we are in a moment where few things are going to change. A new generation of coaches is going to be part of the game, but as well, I will not forget the previous generation of coaches that are still there with a lot of qualities, a lot of experiences, and as well, let me say from my side, with a lot of gratitude for what they brought to the game.
Multilingual Francesco Farioli there, Kevin. So impressive to listen to. Just tell us about the story, because equally impressive and part of this new age of coaches who haven't necessarily played to the highest level.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, this really, because he was a goalkeeper up to the age of 19 when a coach said to him, if you want to make it at the elite level, it might not be as a goalkeeper, but it might be as a coach, because I think they were impressed by how he viewed the game. So he went off to study philosophy, went on to study sports science. He wrote a coaching blog about Roberto De Zerbi's Foggia. De Zerbi got hold of that somehow, and he was really impressed. And so when he came to build his team at Benevento, he brought Farioli on board as a goalkeeping coach. He's been in Turkey, he's been with Nice. At Ajax, they blew the league. I mean, they were there, they were on the cusp of winning the league, and they blew it. He's really rebuilt his confidence, he's rebuilt his reputation. He's done brilliantly at Porto.
Been a wonderful story to watch, Kevin. I'd like to know more about it. Unfortunately, time has beaten us. Great to have your company on the World Football Show. Thank you. Kevin Hatchard, European football expert. Up next, stay with us on Sky Sports News, because we've got the latest on Barcelona's increasingly intense pursuit of this man, Rodri. Another bid has been rejected. Will they go higher again? We'll have that and all the day's transfer news for you next when the Sports Desk returns.